Aaron Gershon and Vinny Hardy back for another episode of Believe in Kentucky. Welcome in, everybody. Coming to y'all courtesy of the Believe Network. You can catch us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen, you can watch, subscribe, rate, hit a little 5-star, leave a little review if you want to take a couple seconds. We definitely appreciate all that. Appreciate everybody that's put some reviews in and ratings in there already. Thanks for that. AG man, we still in that little kind of quiet period waiting for football and all that, but we got to start with the end of baseball because
Yeah.
this time last week we were looking ahead to the regional because you got Clemson and Upstate and West Virginia and heading over to Clemson as the 3 seed, I think, right? Yeah,
Yes. Yep.
and almost came out of there, man.
They sure did. First of all, give them credit for doing it the hard way to get to the regional final. I mean, you lose the first game in heartbreaking fashion. You lead that one 3-0. Feel pretty good about where you're at, and then just slowly West Virginia chips and chips away, and then they win it in walk-off fashion. But Kentucky gets off the mat. They go and beat Upstate, which is what you got to do, knock out the 4 seed, and then they didn't just beat Clemson. They crushed them, and you're like, okay, here we go. You're in the regional final just like that, and you have 2 different 5-run leads against West Virginia, and especially that one in the 8th. I mean, we're talking runners on first and second, 2 out for West Virginia, and no runs yet allowed in the inning, and then the bullpen just had a meltdown. It kind of summed up the type of year it was for Kentucky, where like there was almost that whole one game was kind of a good summary where a lot of good could happen. I mean, we saw the offense score 12 runs. There's no excuse. You score 12 runs, you should be winning a baseball game. But, the offense delivers 12 runs. At times there was some really good pitching. I mean, West Virginia scored 13 runs, but 12 of those came in 2 different innings. So they were held in check for 7 out of 9, or I guess 6 out of 8 because they were the home team. But, did a little bit of everything in that game and, put pressure on the defense. West Virginia committed 5 errors. So, there was a lot of the good stuff from Kentucky, but then there was the bullpen meltdowns, the inconsistency on the mound overall, some of the at-bats with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, not as good as you'd want them. And unfortunately, it was kind of like it did it some poetic justice. Like it kind of made sense for based on how this year went. And I still think it was a good year. I mean, they lost 7 out of their 9 starters. They lost all 3 of their weekend starting pitchers. They lost a lot of the key members of the bullpen. And one of the guys who was great for them last year came in preseason All-ACC, and Robert Hogan was not the same guy this year. So it was just a lot was stacked against them, and they still get to a regional final. But that game was just that's brutal. That's one that is going to eat at Nick Mingione and the guys who are coming back. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I guess when they're up, was it 12-7? I had after watching this team all year, I had the audacity to think to myself, well, at least this won't be a 1-run game, and they lose another 1-run loss. So lose West Virginia with 13-12 and 4-3. So that's 17-15 combined. You lose them by 2 runs because you lost by 1 both times. And then you just add that to the how many 1-run losses? 15 1-run losses,
something like that. Something crazy, and I know
high double digits.
Yeah, just not ideal. Not ideal. You're not going to go very far.
Yeah,
it's amazing they even got to this point with all the 1-run losses and all the blown leads.
And on the flip side, I think Murray State is one. They had double-digit wins by 1 run.
Yeah, but that.
The complete opposite end of the spectrum, and they go to Oxford and win the Oxford Regional over Ole Miss. It's like the NFL. You've seen it. There'll be years where, well, this team is lost 9 games by 7 points or less, and then you have another team that's won, 8 games by a touchdown or less. Kentucky was on that one run loss thing all year long. It started the year that way. You think back to the Auburn series where the brutal, home losses to Auburn. Uh, it just the title of this episode, Kentucky baseball was who they were, because that's at the end of the season. It was kind of that same recurring theme. But I'm like you, at the same time, as heartbreaking as it was, to get to the tournament 3 straight years,
Yeah,
to I think Mingione said to Darren Hedrick, they're kind of like Stoops when he said we're 2 plays away from 9-3.
it's
Mingione
true.
like 9 plays away from winning the SEC or something like that.
Yeah, 9 plays.
Yeah, it was. So uh, I'm not gonna be as mad as everybody was. It stinks to lose 2 5-run leads. You're up 6-1 and 12-7 or whatever it was. That's to not be able to hold either one of those is tough.
Yeah.
But big picture, 3 straight tournament appearances. You mentioned all the guys that this team had to replace. You highlighted that already, and to still get back to the tournament and to be right there and going to a super is still positive, even though it's gonna
Yep.
stay for a while the way it ended.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This was supposed to again be kind of a reboot year, and they make the tournament, like you said, for the 3rd straight year, first time ever, and they get to a regional final like that. That's something to really be proud of. And now comes this is going to be the most interesting offseason that Kentucky's had. I don't know about ever, because I haven't been following this program for my entire life, and definitely it's been around a lot longer than I've been alive. Both of us been alive, but it's definitely the most interesting in recent memory, because Kentucky has a ton of really, really good players set to return. And you heard Minch say it in his post-game press conference, like between what they have on paper to come back and then what they're bringing in freshman-wise, obviously the draft is something there too, and then what they should be able to do in the portal, like this could be a top 10 roster on paper going into next year. And he's right. I mean, Tyler Bell was a guy who was drafted literally 66th overall in the MLB draft last summer, and he's not going to be draft eligible again this offseason. Hudson Brown was a guy I thought should have probably been playing more, and he was unbelievable in that regional. Luke Lawrence has another year. Ben Cleaver's got another year before he's draft eligible. Ethan Walker, who is really good for you down the stretch, I think will be back. Nate Harris has got another year until he's draft eligible. Ryan Schwartz is back. Carson Hansen's back. Like there is a lot coming back here. And, we've seen James McCoy enter the portal, not that big of a surprise, try to find a more consistent role for him going into his last season of college ball. Caius Gargett was another one today, another one kind of looking for more playing time, steady rolled. So, they haven't had a big loss yet, 2 names that are well known, but nothing that's going to derail that top 10 ceiling. But man, if they can hang on to all those guys, they're going to be really, really good. The thing is, we don't know, because Kentucky hasn't really been in this situation before. I mean, after the 23 season, they had a lot of returning talent, but that was their first good year in 6 years. And was it fluky? What was it? So teams didn't necessarily poach them. But now with this open hunting that is the transfer portal and NIL, like the LSUs, the Mississippi States, the Texas A&Ms, they're going to be coming after the Tyler Bells and the Ben Cleavers and the Nate Harrises and the Hudson Browns and the Ryan Schwartz. And it's going to be really, really interesting to see if Kentucky can keep those kids out of the portal. And, time will tell. I just candidly, I don't know if they're going to be able to or not, because I don't really know. We haven't really put their NIL standing up to the test yet. And, Mingione did talk about, the importance with the portal, like, hey, we'll see how this portal thing goes, but we can be a top 10 team if we get everything back. So we'll see. Obviously, it's going to be just fascinating to follow, because I think the only people that really know what Kentucky's baseball's true NIL situation are the people over at Kentucky Proud Park and Mitch Barnhart and his staff. Otherwise, I don't think anyone really knows.
Mm.
Maybe it's great. That's what I'm
it
saying.
could be
Maybe
a
it's
good
great.
thing.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's great. And tip of the cap. And we haven't been giving him enough credit. But maybe it's not LSU, Ole Miss, Texas. The big boys. We'll find out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're right. We will. So, baseball comes to an end. We have Tennessee and Arkansas in a
Yeah, that'll be fun.
regional. So that's 2 SEC squads.
Auburn's playing.
Yeah,
Who are they playing? Coastal, maybe.
something like that. I had it pulled up a day or two ago, but I don't. But a lot of SEC teams got booted. Vandy and
Vandy and Texas.
and
Yeah.
Ole Miss and LSU made it. They're playing West Virginia.
Yeah, LSU's hosting West Virginia.
That was the killer. LSU is playing Little Rock. And
that Little Rock team went 13 games under 500.
You see, and they started returning back to who they were towards the end.
But it was 5-1 Little Rock in game 7 down in Baton Rouge, and you could have had West Virginia hosting Little Rock.
That's right.
Yeah, and you got and Louisville snuck through a regional because of what happened to Vandy.
Yeah, yeah, and when Louisville did beat Vandy too, so
they did. Yeah, you got to give them their credit there.
They caused Vandy to end up. They contributed to Vandy going home. But the graphic, they have the bracket, and it's LSU is currently playing Little Rock. West Virginia is already there. The winner gets West Virginia, and to see Kentucky West Virginia just beat us, and to see us there, that was painful to watch that graphic. I was like, oh man, there we are. They just beat us, and there they are sitting there waiting to see who they get between LSU and Little Rock, and to see Kentucky sitting there as the last team at West Virginia. That was just one more little piece of salt in the wound just watching that as LSU was rallying to beat Little Rock. But speaking of LSU, I got to shout out to AYS Sports. Are You Serious Sports? Blake Ruffino, he hosts the LSU podcast here on Believe. He when Kentucky beat Clemson, he quote tweeted the UK baseball account, and he CC'd Danny Cannell after Kentucky beat Clemson 16-4 because Cannell's Mr. Hate the SEC, Mr. ACC guy. So shout out to Blake and Are You Serious Sports for quotes tweeting UK baseball and throwing a little shade at Danny Cannell after the Cats had destroyed Clemson and ran them off their own field. AG.
Yeah, how about that? That was I didn't really know what to expect. It's so hard with all the pitching and. But yeah, Kentucky just killed them, and it was not much of a game there.
Yeah, that's it. So big picture, still good stuff. We don't know about the NIL, but
that's what it'll come down to. If they keep everything or most of it, they'll be fine. They'll be really good next year.
To score 28 runs in your last 2 games and to go 1-1,
it's that type of year. It was frustrating, and I'm sure. You'll look at what they need in the portal. Obviously, again, it's going to depend on what you can bring back. But even one area between what was an issue this last year and then what's kind of leaving you, the bullpen is probably other than, they need catching. They have 2 incoming freshmen, one in Owen Jenkins could be a draft pick early enough where he signs and leaves anyway. They only have 2 true freshmen catchers that are slated to be on next year's roster. So you got to find a starting backstop probably. You're going to need another outfield / DH back to replace Hage. But, that bullpen's really losing a ton, which it already wasn't that good. But, you're losing Gregerson and Hogan and Rouse and Byers and Novi. And, there's a lot of work to do there.
Yeah, so you're going to have to invest heavily in that, kind of like football is revamping and reinvesting in the O-line, and hopefully that pays off for them. So, speaking of that, they got a couple commitments in football, a receiver for next year and an O-lineman. So that's
it's been quiet, hasn't it?
And look, you cover the program. You have your finger on the pulse, and the pulse is quiet, like you say.
It's actually like it's only going to feed into the conspiracy theories of what lies ahead after the 2026 season. I mean, look, Kentucky even last year had a respectable recruiting class, and that was with recruits watching a 4-8 season unfold, and just a bad year. And then obviously, committing despite 2024 not being with or the 2022 and 2023 seasons kind of falling short of expectations as well. So it was like, okay, at least they're not losing that. I mean, they have 2 commitments in their whole class. Like, one was yesterday with Davis McCray, the receiver out of Texas, and the other, Jarvis Strickland, who is to his credit, a top 200 player, 4-star, the top ranked player in the state of Kentucky for 26, committed a month or two ago. But man, 2 commits. You're ranked right now. I'm looking at it. They have the 82nd ranked class in America right now, and today is June 4th, and this is a big recruiting month, and especially this week and the last 2 weeks. But right now, Kentucky is the worst ranked class in the SEC. The Missouri actually only has 2 commits as well, but they're kind of maybe Kentucky's going to do what Louisville did for a while and they become a transfer portal program, but Louisville has 17 commits in the 26 class, and they're ranked number 10 in America. And you got to give Louisville credit here there's 2 parts of it. Yes, you got to give Louisville credit, but I'm just going to go through the state of Kentucky and where, the last, 10 years, even when Louisville was, with Lamar better than Kentucky was cleaning up in state, especially like schools like North Hardin, the schools in Lexington, like in the Eastern Kentucky, they were all coming to Lexington. So, the number 1 player in the state, Jarvis Strickland at Paducah is committed to Kentucky. Then the number 2, 3, and 4 player, Ethan Hampton out of Owensboro, a running back who is literally he was committed to play for Nick Mingione in Kentucky baseball. And you let Louisville get him. The Carson Bush linebacker out of St. X, that's a Louisville stomping ground, always has been. And then just this week, Josiah Hope, a D lineman from North Hardin, which is Kentucky's AAA. It has been for a long time.
Yeah. Good pipeline.
He commits to Louisville. Yeah. So number 5, that player's uncommitted, but he's at a DuPont at Louisville. Number 6 player from Union, Kentucky is committed to Indiana. Then number 7 out of St. X going to Louisville. Number 8 at Taylor County, a place Kentucky has added out of before, heading to Louisville. Number 9 player out of South Oldham, another school Kentucky's added out of before, is going to Louisville. So it's like they flipped it, man. The Cards have flipped it. And I think part of that is obviously what has, what probably I don't know exactly when all these players committed. I know the kid from North Hardin was this week, but some of that is probably the on-field results. Some of that is probably Jeff Braun being a really good coach, because he is. But I have been told you're not seeing the same Vince Marrow on this trail. You haven't seen the same urgency from some of these coaches on Kentucky staff. Like I've heard Damian Washington, the receivers coaches, crushed it. The defensive staff, Chris Collins, and those guys are doing all they can, but it hasn't really the Vince Marrow. It's not there much, and Bush Hampton's never really been much of a high school recruiter. So, maybe, the only positive I can pull out of it is maybe they're just gonna be a transfer portal program from here on out. Like obviously they added 26 transfers this offseason. Maybe they have a lot of young players who are on this roster who are sophomores who are going to be back next year. If you can retain a good amount of them, obviously they have 21 freshmen coming in. So that's another 21 players where you have investments in, and we'll see how many of them stick around, don't hit the portal after year 1. But it just, to me, only 2 commitments on June 4th is concerning, no matter how you slice it. And it's only going to add to the questions and the speculation of, is this it? And again, Kentucky, their transfer portal class, they signed 26 guys, and I'm going to pull it up because it has been updated, obviously, since the end of fall camp, because they've added, the end of spring practice, they've added 7 guys, but I'm pretty sure they've only added, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not even going to count Hardley Gilmore. I think only 6 of the 21 have more than 2 years of eligibility left. It's mostly 1 and 2 year guys. So it just feels like they're going all in on 2025, and then there's not much of a plan for 26 and beyond. Like that's how it comes off when you only have 2 commits on June 4th.
And depending on where you look, predicted 4 to 5-ish wins, give or take, for entertainment purposes only, or whatever you want to do or say. 4 and 8, 5 and 7 is what people think. And the schedule end of September all the way through October is when you get the brutal part of the gauntlet. So
it's like obviously you don't want to take away from McCray and Strickland. You're happy to have them, and Strickland again, the top ranked player in the state, and then McCray is a kind of a track star kid out of Texas. Kentucky has had trouble putting pen to paper on these Texas kids, so we'll see what happens. Assuming there is no coaching change, but yeah, man, it's like for it to be this not late in the game, but late in the game. It's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And I think fans who are concerned, which most of them are have every right to be, because you have the 82nd ranked high school class. And like, here are some of the schools ahead of them. Just obviously every school in the SEC is ahead of them, but just immediately ahead of them. Fresno State's number 80. Eastern Michigan's at 78. Nevada is at 77. Appy State is 75. Florida International is 74. San Jose State 72. Liberty 71. Sacramento State, they're an FCS school, 67. Tulsa 64. Miami, Ohio 60. Toledo 59. UNLV. It just goes on and on and on. It's not a good look.
Yeah, it's just all the signs and signals and vibes just all kind of ominous and kind of
I mean, look, maybe they'll clean up. Maybe they'll clean up these next couple of weeks, because obviously June is a massive, massive recruiting month for high school football. But yeah, I don't know how you slice it. You have a lot. You're gonna have a lot. Again, we just talked about how they have a lot of last year eligibility guys they added through the portal, and then just some that are coming back. Like Josh Caddises of the world.
Yeah,
Josiah Hayes, like Khalil Saunders. Like there are a lot of guys in their final year, and that means and we don't know, like the roster size could be increased for next year. So scholarship wise, at least. So to only have 2 seems very peculiar, and seems like I don't know, man. I don't know if it means the end again, but it's only going to make us talk about it and speculate it more.
And it's nothing to nothing to prove it wrong, nothing to disprove.
Right. There's nothing to prove. There's nothing to prove this staff is still all in. It's not there right now.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm not trying to be a Deb Downer. I'm just trying to tell you the facts, and the facts are this doesn't look great.
And you're there in Lexington. I mean, last year, the year before, what's the excitement, the anticipation?
The least it's ever been. I mean, even last year, like, I don't think it was like, yes, there was disappointment in how 22 and 23 went.
Yeah.
But going into 23, you had Devin Leary, who was the top portal quarterback. And you brought in Ray Davis, who torched you on this field. So fans were familiar. They were familiar with him. And you had you had guys coming back. You felt pretty good, like that team should have been improved. And, they started out of the gates red hot. They were 5-0. They kicked Florida's ass right here at Kroger Field. And, it looked pretty good. And then they ran into Georgia, and they were never the same. And then going into last year, I still think there was definitely frustration with how 23 went. But if you remember, they ended 23, Stoops almost goes to A&M and doesn't. And I think, they beat Louisville, who's the number 10 team in the country, on their field. And they take Clemson to the wire in a game they probably should have won.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and if you win that Clemson game, like we're talking about that 2023 team in a whole different light. So I think that going into that year, the vibes, even going into last year, I don't think everyone was hyped and thrilled, but it wasn't bad. Like, there was a lot of hype around that week 2 game with South Carolina. Especially, I know it was a short game, but you 31-0 week 1 against Southern Miss. And I know Southern Miss ended up being horrendous, but still they look good. And, you have week 2 at home against the team that's kind of retaking control of the series.
Yeah.
And, the wheels fell off. But yeah, this is the least buzz, least excitement, least anything in my time here for sure.
Yep. And it is what it is. And we'll see if it changes. The season ticket sales have already spoke their piece. And
and they've
we'll see
raised
that.
them, which doesn't help either. That's only going to piss people off more. I know they have. I'm not killing UK for that. But
yeah, and the you talk about, people questioning and raising their eyebrows. The whole, and at this point, it didn't matter when you announce it. The Wolford contract extension and raise.
Oh yeah, it's just it comes off as tone deaf.
And at the same time, it's a couple years ago. You lose to Vanderbilt right after Stoops gets extension.
Yeah,
that's all that kind of stuff is, So yeah.
Yeah, it's only going to add fuel to the fire when you have people who are already ticked off. So
right, yeah,
it's just this program's in a tough spot. I mean, you see every post on social media is just memes about Mark Stoops, and I mean, I know I can't speak for other outlets, but I know our football readership is definitely down, and it stinks. The guys I feel bad for, like the incoming players or the players that are here that have played really well. It stinks for them that there's so much negativity and there's so much, animosity towards this coaching staff right now. But you're also too, and this is the coaching staff. If they're listening, they'll hate to hear it, but when you have what's going on over on the other side of campus and Mark Pope's got this thing rolling and the fans are counting down the days until November 3rd or 4th, whatever day they announce as the opener, and you have a football program that looks on paper with their schedule that's going to be a 4-win team, makes it even harder.
And let's be real, there was a time where it was the other way. It was flipped where we were kind of on basketball and gung ho about football and what Stoops and those guys were doing, because Cal was kind of sliding down the hill.
Absolutely.
And now it's flipped the other way back to and historically that's been the way it is at Kentucky anyway, as far as the basketball football, how you feel about it. And it's flipping back towards that right now, unless football does something to get us to watch it until Big Blue Madness instead of just ignoring it.
Right.
As we wait for
winning cures all. So if they find a way to win football games and they make us all eat it with what we're saying, they will get the fans back, and rightfully so. And I'll be singing their praises and apologizing.
Yeah, me too.
But they got to go prove it, because they haven't done it. They haven't done it in a while now.
That's it. You're right. Your favorite team made a coaching change, and it's not Brian Daboll or Aaron Boone. It is your Knicks parting ways with Tom Thibodeau. Yeah. Where are you at on that? Because I've talked to Knicks fans who are for it and who are against it, who are split on opposite sides of it. So where you come out on it, man?
Yeah, my first reaction was like, this is dumb. Like, this coach has taken you to new levels you haven't been to in 25 years. And obviously, I think they were in the playoffs every year but one with him. They go to, the first year he's there, they were not on paper any good. And, they end up as the 4th seed in the East. And then, they have a down year the next year. And then, 3 straight years second round or more, if I'm not mistaken. I know they lost to Indiana in the second round last year. I'm blanking on Brunson's first season with the Knicks. If look that up real quick to see how far they went, if it was second round or first round. But Yeah, look, like they've done. He did a great job. Like he did a very very good job. The best job a Knicks coach has done, since the late '90s and early 2000s. So, and Mike Woodson had a good year too as well. But yeah, it was. They lost in the second round of the Heat. That's right. The Heat were like a 7 or 8 seed too. That comes back to me now. But yeah. So there's that aspect of it, and then you peel back the emotional layer to it, and uh, there's some similarities, honestly, to what we were talking about. Different reasons, but a little bit of similarities as to why Kentucky moved on from Cal, even though, like, yes, they were making the tournament, but they were falling short. The Knicks were obviously going further in their equivalent of an NCAA tournament, but their style is a little bit outdated, where they don't really keep much of a bench. The starters play ridiculous minutes, and they play 82 games. And I'm okay with playing 82 games. I love it, but maybe 75 or 78, or at least a little bit careful with the minutes and build out a better bench to where, you start playing into June. The NBA, especially for playoff teams, already has a really short off season. Like, you got to adapt a little bit and have a deeper bench. And the Knicks and it's just Tibbs. It is who he is. I mean, he did it in Chicago. He did it in Minnesota. Forgetting, I think he had another stop. He did the same thing there. That's who he is. He plays with a small bench. He trusts his starters and maybe one or two other guys, and he rolls with those guys. And the offense is a little dated. It's not the most fast paced. It's not the Pacers, that's for sure. The Pacers play a no pun intended. They played a very quick pace, fun pace. They're up and down the court on both ends, and they're a hell of a lot of fun to watch. And, the Knicks aren't. They're not that, and that's okay. They don't have to be the Pacers, but you have to get with the times a little bit. And I think that's kind of what the thinking is, and I can understand that. Am I in love with the idea of firing a guy who has had the success he's had, especially comparatively to what you've had with this franchise? Honestly, for most of his existence, but at least in my lifetime, the last 26 years, no, but I can see now, like, peeling back the onion a little bit, I see the case for it more. And it's really going to come down to who they hire. If they get I don't think it's going to be Mike Malone based on the reporting. That's kind of the guy I'd want, a guy who's been there, done that, won a championship in Denver. Not an easy place to win it all, for sure. Or a young up and comer. I don't know what they're going to do. But I am very, very curious to see who they hire, because there aren't many coaches who are more established and quite frankly better than Tibbs in the NBA the last handful of years. So we'll see.
A fellow Connecticut native, just like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
New Britain, is that the same hometown as you?
Or? No, but not too far. Not too far.
Really? So I'm like, man, I'm like,
yeah, yeah. And he he's been around the game forever with a lot of good organizations. I mean, worked with your Rockets in the mid 2000s, the Sixers in the 90s, the Spurs in the 90s, Boston. Obviously, I think he was an assistant on Doc Rivers' staff when they won it all.
Yeah.
So this is a really damn good coach. And if there's a job, I know Phoenix just occupied their role, but Denver or one of the other teams in the league are hiring. Like, I don't think anyone would give him a hard time if they picked Tibbs, because that dude's won everywhere he's gone. It's just the fatigue factor becomes real, I think, and that he is not going to budge on that.
Yep, that's it. So, I mean, the Bulls did that with Doug Collins. He had got them to the conference finals. Yep. They couldn't beat the Pistons, and they bring in this unknown dude from a coaching standpoint, Phil Jackson, and we know the rest is history as far as that goes. But it seemed crazy because I'm like, look, man, you're right there, and it worked, and they made a move, and it paid off. And so, like you said, it all depends on who they hire. Oh, as far as Karl Anthony Towns too, he catches a lot of heat.
Man,
he catches a lot of flack. Oh, we know him as a freshman on the 38-1 team, and the teams in the pros they don't care about that. I went on Nick's podcast before
They don't care.
Quickly got drafted. And the NBA teams, the NBA fan bases, they're just looking at the numbers. What can you come in and do for the squad? None of the backstory, none of and so I think Carl gets a bad rap. Some of it, I'm trying to be objective too. Some of it he brings on himself because I'm watching the game, not pulling for the Knicks or whatever, but he will get 2 or 3 fouls that are just silly. Like, why did you do that? So I can see why fans are like upset or irritated about that. Um, they're making a lot about him only getting 1 block, which I don't know. In the defensive rotations, does he struggle on defense? Yeah,
Yeah, a little bit.
he could probably focus and maybe lock in a little more on defense. So I can see there's some fair criticisms. I think some people were going too far, maybe getting personal because the dude's
Of
been
course.
through a lot and had a lot of loss and a lot of off the court stuff that he's been through.
Yeah.
But I can see some of the gripes, basketball related gripes and flaws in his game if you want to
Mm-hmm.
quibble and fuss about that. But he's just a lightning rod. The dude, the Geo dude from that
Oh,
went off
Greg Giannotti.
calling him a loser and this, that, and that.
Yeah, I heard
Okay,
that.
if based on that, is Patrick Ewing a loser? He went to the finals twice, but he lost. He didn't,
Yep.
he didn't win. The second time he went 99, he was hurt. He didn't even play against the Spurs, I think, that year. But went 94 against the Rockets, lost in 7 to Houston. Based on Geo, Patrick Ewing is a loser. But
Yeah.
I don't
Look,
know, man.
New York's tough, man. It's just different. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. And I think there are some, like you said, there are some fair criticisms. I mean, he is such a talented player, and he is inconsistent, and that is
Yeah.
frustrating. So I get that, but I mean, he's still a really good player. And the thing is, the Knicks did take a step this year. Like, everyone's dogging them because, Boston lost Jason Tatum. The Knicks were winning Game 5, in control in that game, and
Absolutely.
won 2 games when they were down 15 up in Boston with Jason Tatum on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So, I hate that happen, and obviously you hate that happen first and foremost for Jason. But you also hate that it happened because the Knicks have to hear all about that. Like, if Tatum was healthy, like, well, whatever.
And he brought them back. The game they stole from
Yes.
Indiana, Carl was the leader on that.
Yeah.
Now,
So
the
look,
whole Brunson and Cat not playing together. I don't know. Maybe they both.
yeah. Well, no one will never really know that.
Neither one of them are great defenders. Can you have them both?
Right.
I don't know. But as far as some of the stuff Carl takes isn't right.
It's not right.
You can get on him about some stuff for real.
Yeah, the inconsistency, the shot selection, the defense, sure. But look, I think he's busting his ass out there. And, again, he's probably playing. I don't have the minutes in front of me. I can almost guarantee he's playing the most minutes he has in his career. I think he played 82 games this year, or at least close to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I hate to see he's dealing with all that, but it comes with being in New York. Everything is under such a microscope. If Aaron Judge goes for his next 5, you're going to hear it. Like, it's just, it is what it is. It's a really, really, really tough market, and the fans expect everything. And if they get less than it, they're going to let you hear about it. And that's what makes it special. And it can make it also overwhelming for some. So it's about how you handle it. Like, Jalen Brunson has handled it beautifully. I mean, look at the outrage when they signed him. Like, this is the guy, and he's been outstanding. So, New York is a place where if you go there and thrive, you're going to become a hero quick. And if you go there and you stink, you're going to know you stink. It just is what it is. And I don't think Cat has stunk by any means. I think it's gone a little too far, but it is under a closer lens now because he's in New York.
And everybody's different. And Carl we saw him in Kentucky. He's a little corny. He's a little silly.
Yeah.
His vibe is he's not a gruff.
Yeah.
He's a different kind of dude.
Yeah.
His style of play is different. He might not
And
visually look the way you want him to look. Maybe that's some of it, but he still put up numbers. He did work, and he was the best player on the floor at times. He'd been inconsistent at times. Uh, so it
yeah.
depends on who they hire, how will they mesh with Carl and Brunson and your two stars, and that's what it's going to hinge on. Whoever comes in and works with Carl and Jalen, that's what you got to
That's
have.
exactly. Yep. Yeah. That's what's going to come down to. And we'll see. It's going to be when you have a new coaching staff and is he going to fit? We'll see. Maybe he's on the trade market again. Who knows? But I definitely think he took a little too much. Too much crap. I mean, again, the Knicks did take a step. I mean, they went around further than they've been. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years. And again, I don't want to hear the Boston stuff because they were.
Yeah.
I truly think with the position they were in, they were going to win that series either way.
That's it. Did you had any celeb encounters at the Garden at any time you run into anybody?
No, I didn't. It's so expensive. So that was one, did a lot of Yankee games, definitely a lot of Yankee games, good amount of Giants games, both at the old, Giants Stadium and then MetLife now, but not as many Knicks games, a handful, but no. So I've actually, I've been there twice with Kentucky. And then so I've been to probably 3 or 4, maybe if that. Actually, I don't have a celebrity story, but I think the only Knicks game that I think fans might even remember, at least around here, because it involved John Wall, was the Christmas Day game. I think it was 2014, where John Wall got into a huge fight with Quincy Acee. The Wizards absolutely destroyed the Knicks that day, but I do remember John Wall getting into a pretty legit. I forget if he got tossed and Acey got tossed, but definitely there were some ejections there and some double technicals, and it wasn't pretty.
Yeah, absolutely. And one last thing before we wrap up, we just got a little recognition from Front Page Sports. They I sent it to you and Jalen. They put the best podcast for every FBS school, and for Kentucky, they picked Believe in Kentucky. So cool stuff, man, to make the list that they put out, and they listen to us and like what they hear. So we appreciate that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do. Is that the same guy as Big Game Boomer though? I'll take it.
The graphic looks just, like his, but I don't know if he's changed, rebranded, or what.
Yeah, I will. I will take it. Yeah. We appreciate it. So
absolutely,
no complaints from us over here. We appreciate it.
A lot of Kentucky podcasts out there, and so he felt that ours was the best one. So we appreciate that. So thank you, Front Page Sports Front Porch Sports at Front Porch U on Twitter. The least I can do is get their name right if they're going to give us some love like that. So Front Porch Sports, we appreciate it. Appreciate everybody that takes the time to listen. If you want to watch, it's on YouTube. Want to listen, it's on all your podcast platforms. Aaron was talking about readership. The readership he's talking about is at the Cat's Paws, catspaws.com. So read him there. If you want to read about football, read about it. If you don't, read about all his other stuff. Just go read what he writes at the Cat's Paws. Sea of Blue puts our episodes up on their site as well, so we definitely appreciate that. And Aaron, we just taking it a week at a time till we get through this little quiet part. Before you know it, we'll have SEC Media Days, and we'll be rolling on towards the fall sports again. But until then, we'll still have stuff to talk about. So everybody keep on checking this out here on Believe in Kentucky. So for Aaron Gershon, my name is Vinny Hardy. Another episode of Believe in Kentucky, courtesy of the Believe Network. See y'all next week.